All right, everybody, here with Growth Hack Zach, your source for the best growth hacks for your brand. Zach, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you, Kelsey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. So, Zach, how's your day going? Talk to me a little bit about what's going on.
Been very busy. This is the time where everybody on earth wants to work with influencers, and I run an influencer agency. So, yeah, pretty busy.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. So, today, we were planning on talking a little bit about inspired media. Kind of break down what is inspired media for me.
Oh man. So Inspired Media is this thing that we've made. It's a hybrid between earned and paid media. So I came up with this idea when I was looking at one of those Venn diagrams. I'm like, earned and paid media. And I realized that, there's these are the standard models. And everybody thinks of paid media. They think advertising where you pay for it. Obviously, paid media, you pay for it. Sponsored content. It can be really cost effective to spend money in these areas, like where you can earn or you can buy content, but it's also easy to track paid media. Like you pay for a click, you get what you want, and then you can also use this specific targets and audiences. Like you can actually select like down to the very final detail. Exactly who you're reaching. Paid media is great, and then there's this earned media side. Earned media is like the organic stuff, like the customers coming to your website. Getting coverage from third party. Maybe you're in the news, maybe you had some cool event that went on, and it's just naturally this stuff that comes to you and it's earned. And this typically requires very low effort, but it's very hard to cultivate. Like it's very low cost. You don't have to do a lot. As far as money goes, but it's very costly in the time space. So like how much time you have to put in to finally get some results, it adds up. And it's almost impossible to measure because it's a top of funnel approach. And I see earned media being up here and I see paid media down here on the funnel. So this is where the customers are coming in. This is where they're buying. Inspired is kind of not either of those. And that's why we combined them. So it takes unpaid influencer marketing, which is a different category. It takes content syndication. It takes event marketing, like all that crap we were doing in person before COVID, and now we're all doing it online. All this online events and these digital events, and the last one is product seeding. So getting your products in the hands of people's customers. Just trying to get your product out there. Now, the thing I found about this hybrid middle ground is it can actually be more cost effective than earned media, and it gives you more control over what kind of message you want to see. So let's say you're looking for a specific type of audience or outcome, you can leverage earned media, but inspired media is like giving it a little tiny, like little push. And so if you think of inspired media, what this means is that we have a new marketing medium that blends both, but leans towards earned. And why is that important? Well, because most of paid media is in a whole different category, especially if you're an enterprise or a large, like mid-market company. You know exactly what will happen if you're doing paid media. It's a whole different ballgame. You got to put that through legal. Your earned media side's a whole different ballgame, right? You're earning it, and it's just happening. So it's just natural. So what happens when there's a little push behind the earned media side? That's us. This is inspired media, and I think it's the most amazing, most incredible aha moment I've had since I started my company 8 years ago. So influencer marketing is coming a long way.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that concept too of kind of pulling from both angles. So how does kind of product seeding fit in with all of that?
So yeah, product seeding is like sending free products, getting influencers to talk about your stuff. You're hoping that you generate some buzz. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll get some followers. Maybe they'll take a picture. And it sometimes works. If you're doing it in-house, you'll find maybe 1 out of 2 will post and do something. If you're doing it through an influencer agency, you might get better responses, but it can be pretty expensive. But it's a great way to get your product in front of a lot of people, and it generates that buzz. And I always talk about the pizza shop analogy. You may have heard this one before, but if you are a new pizza shop owner and you're in town and you're trying to get everybody to try your pizza, the best way to do that is to literally give it away. Just give away lots of pizza. And so my agency is one of the only ones on earth that literally does product seeding with influencers at massive scale. And it's just a game changer.
That's really interesting. So kind of talking about that in your experience and with your agency, how do you know if an influencer is the right fit for kind of this product seeding campaign?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how do we know the influencers are the right fit for campaigns? It really depends. So, and I hate those answers when someone goes, it depends, and then they wishy-washy. But honestly, It does depend. So like if it depends on your goals. And most people say, when I work with influencers, I just want to make money. Like they're trying to make money. So if that's your goal, you're going to have a different need for the fit. The fit is going to be they're good at selling your product, right? But if you're thinking a good fit is for maybe the content itself, like your goal is to get great content, then you don't have to put so much stress on if they're going to be good at selling. Mm-hmm. So what we look for is we have a target audience that has a great track record for engagement. So engagement means how many likes and comments they have versus their followership. Mm-hmm. And so we also look at things like their reach, like how many total followers. Doesn't matter as much as it used to, but it still matters a bit. And then the type of content that they typically share is also important to take a look at, because there might be something that's completely inappropriate for the platform. So you got to take a look at that. And so the most important thing you can do when you're looking for influencers is never judge a book by its cover. And what I mean is people tend to think that influencers that look good will be good for their brand. And they might be right about that in some cases, like, oh, it might look nice. They might get a nice picture. But the truth is that the influencer that's right for your brand is the one that tries your product and likes it and shares it with their audience. And the audience believes them and they trust them. So I found a way to actually measure this whole thing, and I call it trust quantification. I have a patent pending, and it's an algorithm that helps us test the trust of the network. So we want to see, does the influencer actually have an impact or not? And that impact means, can they be moved by what's being said? So, you might be like, well, what if I get connected to the wrong influencer? That's too dangerous, and this could be like a cancel culture worry. We're all worried that what if I'm connected to a Tiger Woods who gets in trouble and then Nike has to pull the sponsorship? Or you've seen all the terrible things happening online with somebody who was sponsored, and then the advertiser's like, we're just gonna wait until you get your legal issues figured out, and then afterwards maybe we'll work with you again. They're never gonna work together again. So like we're all worried about cancel culture, but brands are over worried when they work with my company, and that's because you literally can't have a tarnished image if there's no partnership. So what is a partnership? Partnership is usually when you contact an influencer and you say, hey, let's do some stuff. And they go, okay, let's do some stuff. And you work out an agreement and an arrangement. That's a partnership. Most of the time you do that with higher celebrity types. You might do it with some macro influencers. But as you go down to the micro and the nanos, you're getting really close to your customers. If anything, you're starting to reach out to customers. That's where Apex is. We're really close to the customer level. We're just a light right above that, more towards the customer, not so up to the celebrity. So what did we do? We make the influencer a customer first, then we make them an influencer. That's the key. So they're product testing. So imagine you send a product to a product tester and you say, what'd you think? And they go, well, I loved it so much, I told all my friends about it. And I posted it on Instagram. And you're like, well, did you tell the world that you got that for free? You're like, well, of course I did. Yeah, that's what I do. And I'm like, well, you better watch out. The FTC could come cracking down on us for this partnership. It's like, what are you talking about? I really like the product. So there's this really weird awkwardness when a brand starts talking to an influencer directly, because it's so transactional. Apex is a middle ground. We talk to the influencer and we do not let the brand talk to the influencer. Why? Because you should be talking to those product testers. It has nothing to do with the test. What are you doing in the room? Get out of the room. So like we kick them out and we make sure that they can't mess anything up. So we also let the influencer say no. If the product tester gets a product and they go, I don't want to test this, they don't have to. And if they also go, I liked it, it was okay, that's also fine. Like, okay, we want to know your truth. Is it good? Is it bad? What did you like? What didn't you like? Product testing is not influencer marketing. However, it is where inspired media comes in. And we found that. So we can do this at the scale of thousands of influencers, and we call them product testers. At this point, they're no longer influencers. They're just popular people who happen to like to do product tests. And so how do you avoid cancel culture? Don't make partnerships. Yeah. Stop doing that. You're not associated. The question would be, well, what happens if they get in trouble and they posted about my brand? I would say, well, what would you do if a customer posted about your brand and they got canceled? You would do nothing. You would do nothing at all. Mm-hmm. Even if they said, thanks brand. If they even shouted you out, if they were at Costco and they tried your product and they said, thanks for the free sample, you don't have a partnership. You don't need to follow up. You don't need to call your lawyers. You don't need to freak out. Guys, this is it. We found it. We're in. This is how you do it. So yeah, I'm super stoked.
Yeah. No, so, and it sounds like there's a very fine line for how you kind of balance disclosing sponsored content with people staying authentic and genuine. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like how you balance that is with your kind of the patent that you're talking about?
Absolutely. So yeah, we've worked with hundreds of brands for about 8 years. We have a perfect record. So like start there. Perfect record. But sponsored content requires disclosure by the FTC. The law says they have to disclose. So Apex, we have a relationship with those influencers. So we have to have that discussion. Our discussion is like this. Hey, we'll give you something for free. We want you to tell the world that you got it for free. That's really the only stipulation. Just tell the world you got it for free. There's nothing else to it. Of course, they're going to say, hey, I got this from the brand and it's cool. Now, many people confuse this still with the paid media. So brands will say, well, I know, but like the FTC says that if you gave them a free product, it's considered a sponsored post. It's like, yes, but it also says that you have a partnership with them in not exactly those words, but it essentially says there's some kind of relationship between you guys. If you put me between you, I'll make sure you can't mess this up. I've been doing this for a long time. You're not going to get in there and start messing with it. We allow the influencer to do whatever they want. They're part of this club and they can post or not post. And if you get involved, it's going to get awkward. They're going to feel like they have to post. And now you are essentially an agent that's pressuring or putting some kind of pressure to make them post. And since we don't pay the influencers, there's really no conflict of interest. Now, they do get a free product. So, that's absolutely part of it. But the secret to this success is that you don't make them post and you put somebody between you that just does product testing and you get out of it and go back to do what you do best anyways. Brands should stay out of the product testing business.
And I think that's an important note that you make too, is being, that line of separation. But in your role, kind of your job is to find, the right influencers. So kind of in that, how do you make sure that people are genuinely interested in the product?
Yeah. So it's actually really not that complicated, but I have a story I can tell that would help describe. So to make sure that influencers are genuinely interested, we have an app. So keep in mind, ApexDrop is an app, but it has similarities to like an event where influencers might be going online. So think of it like a nightclub. Just imagine this really cool nightclub. All these highly engaged influencers, all these up and comers, they go there to meet up. They try new things. They meet each other. And that's the app. They're all on this app, but imagine they're in a building. And then, it's filled with cool kids. All the early adopters are there. Everybody wants in. So the first rule to this club, this imaginary influencer club, is no advertisers allowed. So, advertisements can be in the club. No advertisers allowed. So you're allowed to have food and drinks and things. And the advertisers who make those food and drinks and things can have products in there, but they're not allowed in there. So we don't let the brand to the party. And this is because, if we're being honest, they're lame. They're going to sit in there and they're going to try and sell their stuff to everybody. They think their product's so damn cool that everybody there wants to try it. And the truth is, they're 100% wrong. They're not that cool. And the product's not the best thing that's since sliced bread. And I have to make sure that they know that in a nice way. And so it's actually my job to make sure they don't look like a damn fool coming in and trying to sell all their stuff and make it about the party, not about the brand.
Yeah.
So we're an advertiser's best friend. For like, hey, we'll bring you to the party. You're going to wait outside. But for a small fee, I'm going to bring a box of your stuff into the party. My team is going to go around and talk about it, and we're going to play around and we're going to have a good time with your products. We're going to put them on a table. We're going to let people take them. They can take them if they want. They cannot take them if they don't want to. And we'll even measure who takes it. Like, we know who's here. We'll watch them online afterwards and we'll see if they posted. We'll see if they did anything with it. But, if the advertiser thinks they're getting into the party, the bouncer's going to escort them out. That's not happening. So like, you're not allowed in. It's influencers only. So that's product seeding at 3D chess level, guys. So like, this is another level. The only thing this makes a huge difference for you is if you're a marketer who has a sophisticated budget, a sophisticated team, and you're mature enough to relax and wait outside the club because you know it's the right thing to do, then this works. So the less sophisticated brand thinks like, but I need them to try my beer, and I have to come in and I have to yell, try my beer, or they're not going to try my beer. And like they're freaking out. And I have to just keep calming them down, saying, no. See, we're in here, we're drinking your beer and they like it. You just need to relax. So then after the party, they go, how much money did I make? And I go, hey, remember, you gave me free products. You didn't make any money. I just went in and gave them away. And so let's give it a little time before we assess how this worked. So like brands get so obsessed. They go, did it work? Did it work? Did it work? And I go, well, there's lots of posts. There's a lot of people that love your product. And they go, well, yeah, but how much money did I make? And I go, you're going to make a lot of money because you have a great product and a lot of people liked it. Now we just got to let them share that. So, and let's just keep doing this. How about we bring your product to every party and see now what happens? How long will it take before they start buying it themselves? How long will it be before they tell their friends that they love this product? I mean, we see them posting all over the internet and they're doing it naturally. So that's kind of the system. That's kind of the story. And that's why it works so well. So, product seeding itself is just like send products to influencers, encourage them to try it out. It's not a party, but it is kind of on ApexDrop's end. It's a powerful way to generate the buzz at a massive scale. It's great for product launches. It's like, it is the thing to get your product known by lots of people. And so, we build it in a way where it attracts the popular customer to the club. We bring them to the club and then we bring the products downstairs. So they're already there for fun. They're not there for your product. That's the key. They're not there for you. They're there for my club. So we want the influencers to be customers first, as I said. We don't want them to be influencers. We don't even want to talk about influencers. It's a sticky, yucky, gross word. Influencers is nasty. We want them to just be people who just happen to be doing things that are cool. And, they've been vetted out. We know they're cool. They have audiences. They have interests that are cool. They have values that are cool. Like you might be worried, what if they don't align? It's like, no, these are cool people. They align in that they're just cool people. Yeah. And you don't need to overthink this. So we look at the engagement level and we put a ton of value on engagement. We put a ton of value on how talented they are, their skills. Like maybe they do something for a living and they bring it online. Have they done previous brand partnerships? How did that look? Did they look totally terrible, or was it more casual? Was it the product in the background? Was the post about them, or was it about the product? Because that's a big difference. You want your product in the background. That's what brands still don't get. It's like you want to be the Coke bottle sitting on the table, not the Coke bottle like this. Like you want it over here, not up here. You want it to be about them first, your product second. And as hard as that is to say for your brand, because I know you love your product, that's why you're lame and that's why you can't come into the party.
So when you're talking to, the brands that are waiting outside the club, that you're like, hey, it's like you're talking to them from inside, you're like, hey, it's going great, like relax, like we're doing great. What are kind of the metrics that you're using to evaluate the success and being like, hey, it's good, like your kid's doing great, like you're cool. Like how do you encourage them that they're doing well?
How do I track the effectiveness of product seeding? The metrics that matter. How do we figure that out? Well, we track a variety of metrics that we think are important, but our brands tend to have their metrics that they think are important. So like, what do I think is important? I think impressions are important. I think engagement is important. The clicks that happen, not so much the clicks directly, but the clicks to your site that came from Instagram or from TikTok. And then conversions do matter, and everybody wants to know what's the sale, but conversion rates matter more. And I'll unpack that a little bit. But we monitor social media to see what's going on, and then we try and build reporting around what's happening. There's some good things that are going on that can be really useful for a brand, and some of the feedback also can come privately. So we send out surveys to every influencer, and we get lots of feedback. And sometimes they're just being brutally honest in that feedback. They're like, the product fell apart. Like if it's not a good product, that's one thing. But if it's just like it was a fluke, then we want to work with that. We'll be like, hey, we'll get you another one that's never happened, or this is, we want to make sure that they get another product and that they're happy. And we know that most influencers are going to be a little bit more thoughtful, rather than going online and just bashing a brand and saying it's garbage. They'll let us know that it didn't work. It's a product test. They want to see it work. So keep in mind there is obviously a slight bias there. but it's not this bias that pushes it over to the paid media side. It's really light, and it's so light that it is on the earned media side. So all the money that is in this business is after the post. And brands get real hyper about this. They go, I didn't like the picture. I didn't like the post. I didn't like that influencer. That person, man, when they talked about us, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. I wanted somebody that did this exact thing, and they were jumping and they were laughing. And like, instead they just put it on the table, and like, that's so boring. And it's like, I have to keep telling them, okay, I get it, but the money is in the product being shared in an authentic way. Also, that content, Apex works out the agreement. You get the licensing rights. So what does that even mean? You can literally use that piece of content for the rest of time. So you might not like every picture, but if you got 1,000 pictures done, which is pretty typical for us, 1,000 pictures, how many of those do you think you can reuse? How many would you reuse even if they were all perfect? Maybe 30, maybe 100. Like, you're not going to use them all. So you pick your favorites and you use those, and you stop worrying about all the pictures you didn't like. Go on Amazon.com and look at the reviews, and then tell me how many of those pictures you love. Like, you're not going to like any of them. They're just your picture sitting on the ground, or the box, was beat up by UPS, and you're like, I got a bad review because the shipping company screwed up. And like, that's reality, right? Yeah. So like, we want to see reality. We want to see grainy. Grainy is good. The worst pictures are sometimes the best pictures. Like, you got this person who the camera's shaking, and you're like, oh, I can't even use that. It's like, that's what's cool. The camera was shaking. That means it was a first take. That means it's authentic. They know, their audience knows that. You don't seem to get this. So like, just, be smart. Let the influencer be the artist. Stop trying to control everything. It's ruining all of it.
That's like, and you've said in other episodes too, the importance of, having a 4-star review over a 5-star review.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that, flawed, but worth it. Flawed, but worth it. Let's do that.
Yeah. So you're talking a lot about, allowing the influencers to be the authentic selves, get those grainy videos, have the, the not the perfect images. So when you're talking about authenticity playing in a role in product campaigns, how do you ensure that influencers are presenting the product in an authentic way?
Yeah. So how do I make sure it's authentic? That's a really good question. Authenticity is like the most incredibly important part of product seeding campaigns. And as a consumer, you and I have these really strong BS meters, and they just go ding, ding, ding. Like, we all have them. And when you see an influencer posting something in a way where it's obvious that they were paid or they're endorsing something, it just goes off and we move on. We can't wait to skip that ad. And so if you're an influencer, just stop listening to the brands who keep saying, make it look authentic. Like, look authentic is not the goal. Most advertisers literally think that the word authentic is equal to excitement of their product. Like, they've been duped. They think that you being excited is what authenticity is. No, you could hate their freaking product. Remember that? You might not like it at all. That could be authentic too. Don't get it mixed up. Authenticity is you being you. Trying to look authentic is the opposite of being authentic. Just be yourself. Be honest.
Well, part of it too is, they're paying, well, they're not paying, they're encouraging you to be yourself. So why not, follow your ideas and have that conversation and kind of explore that. So when you're working with, influencers who are developing compelling content and doing the product seeding campaigns, do you see trends in what is most effective?
That's really, yeah. So right now, unboxing videos are still massive. They started on YouTube. They're kind of trending into TikTok and Reels. And, obviously we like Reels and TikTok, and we like YouTube Shorts even. But these reviews, I guess, are really what we find is the most effective is when you see a short form video, SFV is what they call it in the industry. We find that the SFVs produced from creative freedom are the best ones. So that's when there's a unique idea that's shared in a unique way, like the brand didn't even see it coming. We do put up mood boards. We help the influencers. We're like, here's some things that we think are cool. Like, we'll give them some outlines of like some posts and pictures because we're trying to inspire them. But ultimately, those guidelines and inspiration can be thrown out the window because what we want to see is them do something creative on their own. And so, ultimately, those are the most effective and the most amazing. And they're the ones you can't plan for. They're the ones that go viral. They're the ones that everybody loves. They're the ones that you and I are literally waiting to see when we're flipping through our screen, when we're flipping through our feed.
Yeah. 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 So do you have any advice for people that are, looking to use product seeding for the first time? Any advice that you would give them from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't done it before, I would recommend maybe doing it on a small scale. So
Mhm.
like don't get too heavy into like I got to send out 1,000 products, because in the early stages of a business, you probably don't have enough product to give away that would be safe. Now, product seeding is top of funnel. So that means that you're developing on awareness and a branding. Startups tend to need to focus on the bottom of the funnel, like they need immediate sales. So don't go too heavy on the product seeding side as a startup or a brand new company. What you'd like is probably a good balance. This is called multi-touch attribution. Go Google it. You should look into it. Multi-touch attribution means that you attack every part of the funnel. Generally at the top, you build that awareness. Generally in the middle, you're like playing with content and repurposing content and bringing people further down towards the buy. And then at the end, the click, you're paying Google, you're paying Facebook, you're paying for those ads.
Mhm.
I would say try and divvy up your budget based on how much you have. So if you have only $1,000 to work with, go do the bootstrap, kind of like send a few products here and there to a few people. That's fine. If you have a few $1,000s to spend, maybe you can afford to do a little bit more. But a really good product sampling campaign requires a significant investment. So the big players out there obviously playing this game at a big level, and it's hard to keep up with that. So you're going to need to pay for your clicks, and you're going to need to pay for your traffic for a little while. And
Mhm.
most brands, there's usually a 1 to 2 year period where they're hyper obsessed with tomorrow. Like a company is going to crash if you don't
Mhm.
get sales tomorrow. So I would say until you come out of that, and you can be like, okay, so what are we doing for Q4? And like you're focusing a couple quarters down the road. Oh, you're now at a maturity point where you could probably start thinking about floating the funnel and feeling those effects next year, feeling those effects in 6 months, rather than being obsessed with, I got to have sales today.
That's really interesting. So, kind of talking about giving advice to companies that are product seeding, in your experience, in the great words of Bob Ross, happy little accidents, were there any stories that you had that were like happy little mistakes with product seeding that you were like, any good stories that you have to share on that?
So yeah, was there a happy
Yeah.
accident with influencer posts? There was this time where a brand that did a
Yeah.
spray, they did a non-phthalate spray, which is like plastics, I guess. They do a spray where if you use it, you can breathe it in. And I didn't know this, that those little like air fresheners, like on the back it says don't inhale. I was kind of surprised. Like you literally aren't supposed to breathe it in. You spray it everywhere and you're like, it smells so good. You're not supposed to breathe that in. Well, anyways, this brand, they make the kind that you're allowed to breathe in. And that was a big deal for me. So I was like, we need to get the word out. So, we got that in front of the influencers. But while they were doing it, they're like, hey, by the way, we have a toilet spray. And I was like, so like my first inkling was we don't do poop products. Like we won't do that. Like I don't want to talk about the toilet on Instagram. That's not what we do there. This is a place to hang out and have fun, but maybe it's not toilet humor. So anyways, my own taste came in and I was like, no, I said no, I rejected it. Well, the brand didn't listen to me. And so they put the poopery type product in with the box that they shipped out to the influencers. And the day that they got those products, my team was freaking out. And I remember I was sitting at my desk, and one of my employees runs, and she's like, hey, they sent the poopery and there's posts about it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, they did it. Remember we told them not to? And I ran in, I'm like, what are you talking about? And looking at all these pictures. So they play this video of this guy using the poopery product, and there's explosions, and I won't get into all the detail, but it was one of the most funny videos I'd ever seen. I was like, that is awesome. And so, I pulled back and I didn't get angry. I got really excited and happy. I was like, you know what? The brand knew better than I did. They knew that this could be something that they'd have fun with, and they threw it in and it didn't hurt anybody. And so I called them. I was like, you guys were right. So like, we'll keep doing this because it produced amazing content and everybody had a blast. And so that was a happy accident.
So talking about, successful product seeding campaigns, do you have an example of one that, worked really well, and what made it successful for you?
Yeah. So, we have hundreds of campaigns, but one that comes to mind is one we did with Guardian Tech or Guardian Technologies. And this is a air purifier company. They had this really cool air purifier, and they wanted to help influencers have cleaner air in their homes. And so they wanted to engage influencers across the US, and they wanted to get that product awareness out there, get lots of content made. and they were loved by the influencers, and they got so much content produced that it was really fun. I remember that they had about 200 influencers in their campaign, and it made almost 400 pieces of content that was unlicensed for Guardian Tech. So it was like a 2x. That doesn't usually happen. Usually it's like sometimes you get like a 1.5, like that's decent. They just crushed it, and they got about 2,000 new followers on their Instagram, which was pretty exciting. And then they got a 4% engagement rate, which is about our average, but like that was worth celebrating. The most exciting thing about them was their e-com. And so like I remember their conversion rates were about 3.5, and they jumped up to nearly 5% on their website. Now that's a huge jump. I don't remember the exact number, but it was significant, and that's, for the brand, it was very good for their bottom line. And then they also had an average order value that increased. It was around $80, and it went to about $100. So like this campaign pushed up their average order value up significantly. And they also had a spike in their monthly users. So we have access to Google Analytics, and they went from about 25 to about 35,000 people to their site that month. So an extra 10,000. And so it was just really cool to see some of the impact happen quickly. Cause like I always preach how it takes time. And sometimes it is exciting to see things happen quickly. Now those things, those are the quick payoffs. The long payoffs, I have no idea. Like we'll have to do 6 months. We'll have to do 12 months, so I don't want to get too excited about the instant stuff, but it's actually fun to see the instant stuff. So I wanted to share that.
So kind of talking about managing different brands, different influencers, how have you found in your experience to the best way to manage influencers?
Yeah, I actually have I have this theory. It's called management by exclusion. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
So like the rule is stop managing people by telling them what they should do, and start managing people by telling them what they shouldn't do. And it sounds like a really simple thing, but when you change that way of management, what you do is you allow for a creative freedom that's unprecedented. People have autonomy. It's trust. It's just all built in. And I've found that is the most effective way to work with employees. I have a team of almost 40 people that work for me. It's a great way to work with even just like friends, telling them, don't tell people what they should do. Like, maybe this is what we shouldn't be doing. Talk about what we shouldn't be. Most people can agree on what we shouldn't be doing. And then the neat thing is you start bouncing between those two edges, and a lot of beautiful things happen. Like, hey, we agree on the edges. Let's see what's in the middle. Instead of laying down that road, like where it's headed, let the people figure out where that road's going a bit. Let them go around and weave around. I can't talk. Let the people weave around a bit.
Wanda.
Yeah. Have you ever done like, where you've told somebody to do something and it's really frustrating, like they just don't do what you were hoping?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, part of being a good manager is allowing people you surround yourself with brilliant people who are smart in their own ways that you may not be an expert in. So like obviously influencers are experts in their life and what they're doing and they're following. So being able to, allow them to kind of have that autonomy, I bet is huge, is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, I think autonomy is key to freedom and creative freedom. And the world is really just fighting between control and chaos. And we have influencers that are a little bit more on the chaotic side can actually be the ones that produce the best results. And I know the controls for brands, especially enterprise companies, it can be really stressful. So the cool thing is we figured it out, guys. So like there is a middle ground called InspiredMedia. And now enterprise brands can work with massive quantities of influencers without this fear that you're going to get a canceled influencer who's going to bash you or do something stupid, because you're literally no longer in partnership with them.
Brilliant. And that's where ApexDrop comes in.